And I put a lot of thought into how it might work, the technology behind it. So much so that I decided that it might actually work.
Iway, who makes a living working for a video game company, doesn't build his own parts. And the miniature steam engines he uses come from hobby stores. It's the unusual ways he cobbles everything together that grabs people's attention.
This one actually won the Best of Show in Robo Games a couple years back. It's in the shape of a trilobite, which is a prehistoric animal. Steam is very intriguing because you get to play with fire, you get to play with something that's a little bit dangerous, a little bit unusual. It's all visual, you can see it, you can smell it. So this is the Steam Rover. It's basically a steam engine powered 6-wheel drive, 4-wheel steering, well, steam machine. It's one of the more powerful ones that I have, and it's just a blast and drive around.
Most of Iway's engines sound like tiny locomotives, but this one makes a distinctively different sound.
I decided to do a turbine since I've done so many piston-driven steam machines. So it was a challenge finding a turbine that actually works well. It uses up a lot of steam very, very fast. It has super high RPM, but not a whole lot of torque. So a lot of steering down is required. And the forward reverse is done by clutch because the turbine only turns one way. This is the Steam Centipede. It's one of my most complex machines that I've built. It has 32 legs. In old, science fiction movies, there's a lot of steam walking machines, but there's a reason why it's really hard to pull off. It's just not as efficient as wheels.
Iway has managed to get even his most complex designs up and running on a small scale. But what about a full-size version?
So I would love to see one of these huge steam machines, something like this that can carry people around. But this already scares me that the boilers could fail on a big scale. That's not something I want to think about.
But in nearby Oakland, a group of artisans operating under the Kinetic Steamworks banner take on the challenge of dealing with fire and water on a much bigger scale, with sometimes startling results.
Here at Kinetic Steamworks, we have a complete reverence for the vintage equipment and the stylings of the way things used to be done. And we really like to take the vintage equipment and use it for contemporary art.
Like their 1920 traction engine named Portents that provided the steam power for a belt drive that turned a carousel.
There were actually steam carousels back in the day. This was a little bit more on an industrial scale, and it really was a massive belt movement and gear motion, reciprocating motion, that was much of a pleasure to ride in carousel as it was to watch the entire operation.
At the Kinetic Steamworks 6,000 square foot shop, the group fires up a small boiler to supply steam to some of their smaller projects.
The boiler is called the blister by some, and little baby steamy fans by some others. We have a firebox, and right now we're burning liquid fuel and wood. Here comes some steam.
This is a mock-up of what might have been used in a factory at the turn of the century, the last century, not the supposed one, where you've got steam coming to a small engine like this, and there's a PTO, a power takeoff here, that the sewing machine operator can tension this belt or detension it. It just basically takes steam power, turns it into centrifugal force, and makes the flywheel on the sewing machine work.
Not everything we do here is practical at Kinetic Steamworks. However, art can be a lot of fun. This is a sculpture that I put together out of old musical instruments. One of the things that we as an organization did was restore a steamboat, a paddle wheel, stern wheel steamboat, and it was a beautiful experience. The artist that we collaborated with, Swoon, she decorated our vessel, and despite the fact that it didn't necessarily look like a steamboat of the 1800s, it ran like one.
The steamboat now sits quietly in the back of the shop, while the Steamworks gang is dreaming up their next project. In the meantime, let's just blow off a little steam.